Does a new medical study conclude that many cases of dementia are actually the side effects of prescription drugs? No, that's not true. A 2015 study did measure a higher rate of development of dementia in the elderly who take a certain class of drugs for an extended period, but it did not identify dementia as a side effect of the drugs. A doctor not involved in the study suggested that people who are more likely to develop dementia also were more likely to be taking the drugs. The researchers recommended doctors not stop giving the drugs to their older patients, but they should use the smallest doses needed to treat them. The story originated from an article, where it was published by theheartysoul.com on August 17, 2018 under the title, New Study, Many Cases of Dementia Are Actually Side Effects of Prescription Drugs. It opened, quote, "Studies, common prescription drugs linked to increased dementia risk. We wish it wasn't the case, but, unfortunately, memory loss is a hot topic. People have countless questions about brain diseases such as Alzheimer's and dementia. What really causes it? Will there ever be a cure? Are there any natural preventatives? How do my other medications that I'm taking affect my risk of such problems?" In fact, many prescriptions have actually been linked to memory loss. We hope to answer these questions and more below. So, if you or a loved one is worried about or currently living with this problem, please keep reading. End quote. This is what social media users saw. The misleading article starts with a generally accurate explanation of dementia and also a description of the statistical findings of the 2015 study. Quote, "In March 2015, researchers published a prospective cohort study in JAMA Internal Medicine called Cumulative Use of Strong Anticholinergics and Incident Dementia. The University of Washington and Seattle Healthcare System, Group Health, conducted the long-term study which tracked 3,434 men and women who were aged 65 and up, and had no dementia when the study began. 5. The team accessed every participant's history of drug use for the previous decade, including both over-the-counter and prescription drugs. Over a 7-year timeline, they followed up with all the participants every 2 years, during which 797 participants developed dementia, 637 of whom developed Alzheimer's disease. As researchers looked back on what those 797 individuals took, anticholinergic drugs became the main suspect. The most common anticholinergics participants used were tricyclic antidepressants, first-generation antihistamines, and bladder antimuscarinics. Compared to those who didn't take anticholinergic drugs, people who did for as little as 3 years were 54% more likely to develop dementia. End quote. Before diving into why this story is misleading, let's first answer the question, what are anticholinergic drugs? Quote, "Anticholinergic and antispasmodic drugs include a broad class of medications that are used to treat various medical conditions that involve contraction and relaxation of muscles. Examples of these conditions include overactive bladder, muscle spasms, breathing problems, diarrhea, gastrointestinal cramps, movement disorders, and others. Anticholinergics work by blocking the action of acetylcholine in the brain and at nerves. Neurotransmitters are chemicals made and released by nerves that travel to nearby nerves or, in the case of acetylcholine, nearby muscles and glands where they attach to receptors on the surface of the nerve, muscle, or glandular cells. The attachment of the neurotransmitter can stimulate or inhibit the activity of the receptor-containing cells. Anticholinergic drugs affect the function of many organs by preventing acetylcholine from binding to its receptors." End quote. A list of specific drugs in the category can be found in this article titled What are examples of prescription anticholinergic and antispasmodic agents available in the U.S.? The conclusion of the study titled Cumulative Use of Strong Anticholinergics and Incident Dementia, a prospective cohort study, offers important advice to physicians and their older patients about how to minimize the potential association of the long-term use of the drugs and the development of dementia. Quote, "Conclusions: An increased risk for dementia was seen in people with higher use of anticholinergics. Our findings suggest that a person taking an anticholinergic, such as oxybutynin chloride, 5 mg, d, or doxepin hydrochloride, 10 mg, d, for more than 3 years would have a greater risk for dementia. Prescribers should be aware of this potential association when considering anticholinergics for their older patients and should consider alternatives when possible."